This is the introduction to my lesson with Art Jennings down at the University of Florida. I've known Art for a number of years, and it was really wonderful to get to spend some time with him. I think in our discussions over 3 days, I learned way more than I did in the lesson that we worked together, and when we worked together, I learned quite a bit as well. I hope that you'll enjoy watching the lesson and that you will get as much out of it as I have. Thanks, Art, for your input. Art Jennings, University of Florida, thank you so much for your willingness to be part of this sabbatical project and give me your time in the lesson. We will probably try and treat this as if it was just a lesson where a student came to you for the first lesson, and what things would you want the student to do in that first lesson. Specifically, I'm also interested in your ideas on, for my own playing, I would like to develop endurance and accuracy, which are two things that I think that I'm definitely need work on. And then I am going through an embouchure change, so that's why the endurance thing. But because I think embouchure and breathing are so closely related, anything that you would have in the way of your ideas on correct breathing and things that you use both in teaching, and that means when you play an exercise, how do you breathe? And then when you go out and are actually playing, you don't want to be thinking about what you're doing, but do you do exactly the same thing without thinking?
Good. Well, I'll keep those in mind and keep those goals number one. So I'm also interested in endurance for myself. So one thing that I do every day and that I highly encourage is starting off with long tones, but doing them in the way I learned from Carmine Caruso when I took lessons from him for a couple of years when I lived in New York City. And basically I'll try to be real simple about it, and that is he uses what he calls a long setting principle, which is nothing more than once you start whatever the exercise is, you put the mouthpiece on your face, you're going to leave it there until the exercise is over. It would be wonderful if we didn't have to breathe, but because we do have to breathe, there's an artificial method that we use that I tell my students right from the get-go, this is not used when you're actually performing on the trombone. It's just something you use as a strategy to not have to disturb the embouchure, and so that what you're essentially doing is one big long tone. And that is that once you put the mouthpiece on and start the exercise, you don't take it off, and you don't really take the embouchure apart in any way until the exercise is over. So to get around the fact that you got to breathe, instead of the mouth, we use the nose. Okay. And as long as you don't have a cold or you're congested, this works fine. If you do, then you simply can't do this. So you're going to play a note. When it's time for you to breathe, you just leave everything in place and breathe through the nose. And when it's time to play again, you just blow. So the exercise has that breathing interval built into it. And basically what it is we start on middle F and at a moderate tempo, 8 counts on each note, 4 counts breathing through the nose, plenty of time to breathe, and then the next note, and it goes chromatically F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A. Before you do anything though, I always ask my students to get their ear activated to imagine themselves playing a beautiful F, which is going to be the first note, and then either sing it or buzz it on the mouthpiece, their choice. And then, now just correct it, just there's your F. And that's it. And good, and I like the way you're buzzing with a good straight buzz. And that's just do some easy, maybe just 1 or 2 more easy light buzzes on that F. Okay. Now I'll just say one thing about breathing at this point because it comes up. When I see you do that, I see you as you're letting your air go. actually collapsing physically, okay? So now my concept of breathing on the trombone is, at least the exhalation part of it, is that the abdominal wall is where we have mobility and control and maximum strength, you know? So that's what I think of these as the air pump. And I think of the upper body as I want to feel that as a big open resonating cavity, and I don't want it to be lifting and dropping, okay? Intuitively, it seems like that when we take a big breath and when we let go of it, we collapse. But physiologically, it's more accurate that really this doesn't have, this, you can be full of air and still collapse that. You can be empty and still, so that really has nothing to do with air.
Keep this higher.
Yeah. Many people think of exhaling as something it's a natural exhalation, you just let go. It's sort of a passive act. Forced exhalation, blowing against the resistance, is a different matter, and that's where we engage. And yeah, that's it. See all the mobility you have down there.
Yeah.
Most brass players at first they don't take advantage of that, and they actually stop that motion way early. So I want you to use your full range down here, relatively still here.
Okay.
Like that, okay? So. That's the idea. And whether you're playing loud or soft, it's still the same action. So it's not always forceful, but it can be. Yeah, that's it. Well, one other thing I like to do now, just because we want to try to get as many things activated at once, so I use what I call snark and drone work. I use this snark device that's a clip-on, clip that on your bell so you can see it. It's set, that tuner is set so that it's reading the vibration of your horn. It's not reading the sound, actual sounds, it's reading the vibration. And then I plug it into we're going to use a drone and do your 6 notes. When you do your 6 note, main objective to be the straightness of the sound, okay? Absolutely straight from the moment it leaves. I sometimes compare it to a fluorescent light bulb, tube. You want it to be, you want a luminous tone, and you want it to be not flickering, flickering, but perfectly uniform all the way from the beginning to the end. So. So any little wiggles and wobbles that I'm hearing right now are just telling me that there's little points of tension, and there's very subtle adjustments, maybe opening up, releasing tension in the air. So I'm using those wiggles and wobbles to direct me toward the most efficient free release of my air, and also the best balance of my embouchure, because if, for example, if the embouchure is set too loosely around here, and that's spontaneous things that are happening. If it's too tight, just like if you hold your hand too tight, you'll get that. So that's helping me find. It's not that that you're always going to get it perfectly straight or perfectly resonant, but that's your intention,
Your goal.
and that's
Yeah.
what's going to guide you into that state
Yeah.
of perfect equilibrium. Keep the tone absolutely at this probably at this stage, this isn't a very good what we would call warm-up exercise for you, because you don't know it and you're
Right.
thinking too much about how to do it, you know.
Right.
But once you get to know this, then it will operate that way. So maybe what I would like you to do is right now is just without all this extra stuff is to do a one of your long tone exercises that you're very familiar with, and maybe just incorporate the long setting and incorporate the principle of that your main objective is a straight tone.
Okay.
Not a loud tone, not a soft tone, right in the middle of a straight tone. And you're also, as you're playing this, you're also conscious of your sense of comfort and ease, and you're looking to at least end up so that you're feeling perfectly, you know, poised and balanced. Now, for the moment, I would just rather, I know I wasn't going to direct you in any way, but the first thing I want you to be able to establish is to play a tone that's absolutely consistent from the time it
Okay.
leaves your, so there's going to be no
Right.
getting louder
I
or
do a
getting
crescendo,
softer.
decrescendo. So
Yeah,
I
you're not
don't
going to do that yet.
Okay.
Okay. And what you're thinking is airspeed, because the volume is determined by the airspeed. Okay, so you want to be keeping an absolutely constant airspeed through your lips. Now, as you're running out of air, you know, you may have to be doing something down here to, you know, but it's the air coming here. You want it to be absolutely constant. And when you can't hold it at that speed anymore, you have to stop the air. You have to stop the tone.
And when I do this, I also go back to the B flat each time and glissando to the next note, the next long tone.
Okay,
So-
whatever you're doing. Yeah, I just
But I'll
want your
put the
goal to
di-
be that the tone is going to be straight from the moment you start it to when you release it, and you're not going to allow yourself to try to force out a few more
Okay.
beats
Just make it
with
full the whole
not
way.
enough air.
Okay.
Okay? Oh, did you hear that note deteriorate?
Uh-huh.
We don't want that.
Then I go the other way.
Mm-hmm. So, anyway,
Physical,
now let me
yeah.
backtrack a minute and tell you what I would do if this were truly a first lesson with a student, or which it really is,
Yeah,
or
right.
if it were a one-time lesson. I probably would not have introduced the Caruso 6 notes, because I find what I should have done, and in this case, was what I just did. Let you do your warm-up and then go from there, because it's really not about what the actual warm-up, I mean, I use that format for my warm-up. What you just did is a perfectly excellent warm-up. But what we can go to work on right away is how you're doing it, because it's not really what you're doing, it's how you're doing it. And so I have all kinds of ideas on how you could do what you're doing, so that in my mind it would be much more effective and get right to the heart of the matter. So the idea of wanting to keep that note totally straight, and that's your main objective, and not the volume, will inform you physically if you allow yourself then to, it involves a certain amount of trust. Your physiology knows what to do. You just need to give it the right orders. And your
Right.
orders right now are, I want a beautifully balanced, easy, long tone. I don't want any wiggles or wobbles in it, okay? And then go. And then allow your body to do what it needs to do. It'll naturally, if you're playing like this, you're naturally going to sit up because you know that what you
Right.
want to do is going to require,
Yeah.
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 So you do it. And a lot of what we need to do as brass players has to do with us getting out of the way and letting our body do what it wants to do,
Yeah.
not try to direct it. That's the delicate
Yeah,
balance.
I think I understand the goal. How long, let's say that I have my lesson and then tomorrow I go to practice the things we've just talked about.
Yeah.
How long do you think I should spend each day? Because
Well, that's
you can't become 100% efficient in one practice session, no matter how long you
can't.
spend
That's
on
a good question because, at the level that you're at, a college student, is you've got so much time in the day, you've got to get so much done. So I try to let them think about proportions. Now, in the early stages of it, maybe going to work, on upgrading your fundamentals and learning new repertoire. In the earlier stages of that, hopefully early in the semester, the performance pressures are not great, so we'll give a greater proportion to getting this set up, so that they're doing their what I would call conditioning routine work in the most efficient and the most economical and fashion, so that they're getting the most out of it and they're developing.
So in a total day, let's say a 2-hour practice session
Yeah.
is going to be the total day, maybe not 2 hours consecutively.
Right.
What percentage of that 2 hours would be on the conditioning exercises?
Well, I like to get it down to as low as possible, and I would think maybe a 2-hour session, maybe 10%,
Okay,
not any more than 10%.
so that's
Yeah.
20, so that's 12 minutes. or
And
so.
in the early stages of this, it's really important, I think, when you're developing your own routine or adapting someone else's, that you really make the way you're doing it very important. You're not just playing through it, but the way you're doing it is very important, because it's the same thing when you go to a gym and work with a personal trainer, and you start learning things that seem very ordinary, like a bench press. There's
you have to use the right technique.
you have
or
to
it
use the
doesn't
right
work.
exactly the way to do it, and then the exercise is paying off.
So inhale, what I'd be working on is setting, breathing through my nose, not playing so darn loud all the time.
Well,
but
yeah, the volume at this point
It's
is
more of a
determined.
straight tone.
You want to select a tempo and a volume for your long tones that gives you the best exchange of air and challenges you, a little.
So those are some things that I can take with me. What would the next thing? Would you want to know more of my warm-up routine, or would? at this
No,
point-
I think for right now, well, maybe we could continue a little bit with warming up, and like after I do my long tones, I feel like when I finish my long tones, I should be feeling very comfortable with my posture and alignment, feeling very natural. I should be feeling very comfortable with my breathing, and I should be, feeling that the buzz is working fine now. And even though I don't consider that I did a warm up happened while I was doing those notes, because warm up just happens when you're doing something you don't have to be warmed up to do.
Right.
Okay, now that I've got that established, now I want to do something that's a little more challenging. So I'm going to start moving notes. So I might do a very simple little scale fragment. I'm monitoring. I'm making sure that this doesn't go wobbly on me. You know, that maybe a little more challenge on that is a simple lip slur. And I can feel a little bit of instability there that I don't want, so I'm going to hang with that just a little longer. Maybe I'll do a slow one. As I'm doing that, what I'm really trying to feel is I'm wanting to feel minimal movement in this area, not paralyzing myself, but just I want to minimize it, and I want to feel free airflow, and ideally I'd want to have those notes, you're riding through those harmonics with the raised of ease.
Okay.
And so I'll do those, and that'll, as I do those, that'll improve. It'll be even simpler. You know, something. One more little thing that is something that I'm kind of annoying about to my students is that you do something that I think it would be good if you eliminated. You do this every time you play. You conduct yourself. Now, physiologically, that has nothing to do with the delivery of the air. Is everything that you don't need. I try to take a survey of everything I don't need to do, and then I just don't do it anymore because it's a waste of
Well,
energy.
My degree is in conducting,
And also,
but I got
it's
you now.
disturbing.
Yeah,
You know,
bounces,
so you want things to be. You want. It's like, imagine yourself as a sharpshooter with a telescopic sight. Okay. When I pull the trigger on my air, I want my crosshairs are on the note, which means that I am all set. My tongue is in place. Bullseye's there. I mean, my crosshairs are on the bullseye. When I want to fire the air, I just fire the air. Another thing I say is that there's nothing in the playing of the trombone that is on the up and down plane. Everything we do is on the horizontal plane. The slide in and out, the air in and out. Anything that's on this is disturbing. That's disturbing things.
This will be hard.
Here's the thing. That's a habit that's pretty strong. So in this case, what you need to do to not become paralyzed is, and with all the things that I think that we work on in our own individual playing, all these technical things issues that we're working on upgrading. I feel it's important on some level to use what I call dedicated practice time to working on those things, you know, and then when you've, you know, maybe 5 minutes of maybe you invent exercises that help where you're thinking about it, because everything else you're doing is nothing you have to think about, you know, and then when you get through, forget about it, put the hood down, get back in the driver's seat and start driving the car and start looking back at what times when, if I'm working on a piece or something, if I feel that all of a sudden there's a technical issue that's coming up, then I'll stop, I'll maybe use the solo piece itself, but I'll stop and I'll it's like getting out of the car, putting the hood up. Okay, I got to do a little work on that. Okay, put the hood down and go back on the piece.
Right. Okay.
So that I don't get in the habit of thinking about everything I'm doing all the time. Now, you're probably warmed up now.
Okay.
So what we could do now, and this is another thing that I feel in this day and age with so much going on, is that as much, I like to take as much of the routine work, of the things I'm trying to accomplish, and use the literature that I'm practicing and finding ways of doing that. So is there a piece you'd like to go to work on?
Well, I've been working a little bit on the Fantasia, which should be right here. Do you
Oh,
know?
okay. I don't know that piece, so,
Oh, really?
yeah, and I don't even think I have it, so I'm gonna sit next to you now.
Okay. And like so much of what I do, I'm going to give this back to you
Yeah.
so I don't go cross-eyed. I tend to overplay this. It's very tense
Yeah.
when I play it. And you'll probably see I'll be breathing, bouncing, and all those things that eventually I'll try and get rid of.
Yeah. I think this is a piece that incorporates virtually every issue of
It has every issue that I have right now.
Yeah, right,
I
so
mean,
this is great.
Register changes and
So,
air and stuff like
yeah,
that.
how long have you actually been working on this? So a piece like this, when I start off with a piece like this, I don't see it as a piece yet. I see it as a collection, in this case, of about maybe 15, 20 exercises. So let's go to work on an exercise. What issue, or which, now sometimes what I'll start with on a solo, there's a couple different things that'll make me decide what to do. Now, a piece like this, I just look over the page and I see every inch of the page has something that is going to be interesting to work on. But I'm looking at the ending and I'm seeing the notes are getting a little bit bigger and it's getting louder and it ends up, with a nice long. So I might want to get the ending really strong. And for me, what happens when I get the ending really strong, I'm really motivated now to get the rest of it. Where shall we determine as the beginning of this? Let's start right on the triplets, maybe.
Okay. Try and do the things I'm supposed to do.
Okay, good. We're going to break this down. Let's just take that very last statement, and I want you to play that just the way you know that you're going to want to play it to make the audience spontaneously rise up and scream and clap. Okay, good. Now you can get the power much more concentrated. Every time you chop, you're dissipating. I'll let you do it,
So
but I want
still.
you to just get those 4 notes very stabilized. Do whatever you need to do. Slow down, then speed up, whatever. Let me hear it. Next note. No, the next note. Next note. Give me a better C. Yeah, the D. The next note. Good. Give me the first note again. Next note. Next note. Next note. Okay. Now, put those. Do whatever repetition you need, but when you get through, I want those notes to be 1 unit, no longer 4 notes.
Okay.
1 unit of sound. Okay, now one thing, be sure that I'm hearing 1, 2, 3, bomb, not and dom, bomb,
Okay.
bomb. 1, 2, yeah. We're going to start putting that into it. The inflection. Good. Again, give me a better first note. Give me a better first note. Okay. Now, yeah, that's good. Good. Do the next one now. Yeah, it's to me one of the great things I took from studying with Carmine Crusoe was the idea of thinking of loud and soft as coming about by changes in air speed. Okay, so when I'm feeling like I want to intensify a note, I think of faster air.
Okay.
Now, physiologically and in actuality, it's probably a lot more complicated than that. But we don't. All you need to do is just feel like you're accelerating your air. So if you want to, I want the top note to just have a little more juice on it. So I'm just going to step on the gas pedal.
Faster air on the.
Yeah,
deep.
just think faster air. Yeah, and then we're going to continue now, and you're going to use that same principle. Okay,
the last
and
part.
and then when you get to that note, you're going to be
Faster.
it's going to be accelerating as you play through it. Yeah, that's it. To me, that simplifies things.
Mhm.
You know, loud tends, when we think, oh, I got to play that really loud, we tend to think strength. When we think strength, we think tightening up our muscles. When we think fast, we think.
I'm overplaying that right now too.
Okay.
I think.
Fix it the way you want. Now, just eliminate the chop
bounce.
chop. You know well enough that you don't have to think about the notes anymore, but just think about
It's my choreography.
the air goes out, and then you're going to suck the air back in. It's all on this plane. Yeah.
Oh, that works great.
What I think happens is when is all the extra movements we make are like static on a radio signal, you know. So when you eliminate those movements, all of a sudden now you have receptors that are free to think about just where the action is, which is, you know, for me it's.
But I like that direction of the air in out.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
worked pretty well.
Can you even make that more exciting? Like you're really going for the first prize in the international
Okay.
competition now. So you're gonna,
Let's say slower too.
yeah, go whatever. Okay, now let's back up to let's get into that from maybe the next starting point, which looks like you're taking a big breath here.
Yeah.
So I would start right there.
I'm running out of air. Why is that? Keep moving.
No, that's fine. I mean, you know, like you don't get too frustrated, and especially when you notice that you moved. You know, congratulate yourself because now you're starting to be aware of it. But you know, don't put yourself down. That's my job. The way you're playing that now, you're playing it nice and spaced, which is good. And I think that you might be able to think about catching some very quick replacement breaths on your way down that. And to me, the key to replacement breaths is your posture. If your posture's right, if you're not in the habit of chopping or collapsing as you're blowing, then this stays the same. All you really then have to do is you just have to take air into the mouth and turn it back around. If any kind of collapsing means that when you take your breath, you got to pick yourself back up again.
Right. Yeah.
And there's not time for that. So if you keep yourself up, all you have to do is just take it in and turn it around. If you learn to keep your arm to open your mouth to take a breath without totally collapsing, keep as much of your embouchure intact as you can. And look, you know, I'm not letting go of any, and I'm talking.
Frame,
you know? Yeah. And a lot of trombone players get into this thing where, okay, I need a lot of air, so I'm going to open my mouth as much as possible. But of course, the glottis is only that big, so anything bigger than that is a waste of time.
Really?
And you're taking your embouchure apart and having to put it back together again. You're gaining nothing. What I think we should allow to happen as much as possible, and this is what I think Jacobs was leading into the song and win thing, is to let our concept, you know, after we get, you know, the choreography of what we need to do, what notes we're playing, and where to move the slide and all that stuff, then be so overwhelmed with our concept of just the sound that, and then get out of our body's way, and just that's what we do when we talk. You know, we're not thinking about
where we breathe and everything else.
Yeah. So at that point now, and you're probably ready. You've heard that enough times. So I just want you to put your concept of the piece in charge and trust yourself to do it. Okay?
Okay.
So do it right now. successful?
At a certain point, I went, oh, I can't do that. I
Yeah.
know what I wanted to
I
do,
know.
but it's not happening.
I felt you go back into
Right,
kind of
yeah.
command mode down here
Yes,
where you
exactly.
I gotta do something.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
it'd probably take a little time.
Well, you can try it again and just see if you can get that the voice of the concept to be louder. It's got to overwhelm.
Wrong note.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll take some time.
But that's
I'll tell you, the best thing all day has been
Yeah.
like
Really?
that instead of like this.
Yeah.
That's a great thing.
Now there's some other issues in here that are really good. I like this is something whenever we have to go from a low note to a high note on a trombone or a brass instrument, that's a good opportunity for particular kinds of work. So why don't we work?
Okay.
Where's the most extreme? Where's the hardest
This
passage?
one, I think.
Okay, let's go to work on that.
I'm not
Okay.
going out far enough.
Now, what I find is, and this is, I'll try to be as concise about this as possible. When we have to go from low to high, and we have trouble with the high notes, we always blame the high notes, but my feeling is that it's mostly the low notes that messed us up. Why? Because low notes, we have a greater tolerance for sloppy embouchures.
Uh-huh.
The higher you go, the less tolerant you have. The embouchure
Right.
just won't.
Yeah.
You won't get the notes. You know, what we usually need to do is upgrade the lower notes, and so the way I do that is I invert it. When I invert it, I end up with a B down here. That feels a lot different than when I start on the B. My embouchure is it's a
Yeah.
lot different. Now, when I teach myself to start that D the way it felt when I inverted it, then things are going to go a lot better. Yeah, feel how much more. What you teach yourself to do is you're going to take a breath, you're going to play, and then when you take that breath to go, somehow what you learn to do is you learn to put the potential for the high note, you learn to form your frame for the high note, because the low notes can play just as well. At first, people say, well, my low notes now feel a little pinched and tight, but they're usually just meant more centered. It just feels funny. I also have to organize it in my mind, so I'm thinking 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1.
Right.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1. Okay,
Yeah.
but you know the piece. Now, that's sounding good now.
Yeah,
Now,
that works now.
now, what you want to now? Here's where the key is to before you leave this. You're going to do a few reps where you're starting to mentally meld that into not 6, 7, not 6 plus 2 notes, but one thing.
Okay.
Da 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 dum da da. That's just one thing. Okay. Yeah, I'm starting to hear it now as a word instead of a bunch of syllables.
Yeah, and that helped.
Mhm.
What's so frustrating is maybe tomorrow it won't be there.
No,
again.
no, you'll have to go through this process day after day
Yeah.
for a while, and then, but it'll start to become just us. Is there any other issues is there any?
This is
Good,
point
yeah,
of
okay.
bass clef
Yeah,
here,
let's
and
go
then
after
turn-
this one. Just go ahead and play that passage at whatever speed.
So
Okay.
that,
Mm-hmm.
I have to almost reset for the.
Now, what? Can you play the? Can you just play the high note? Can you just give me a? Yeah, high notes, of course, are spoilers in our effort to be always relaxed and
Mhm.
not too tense. So, let me see what we got here. We have D flat to C
flat to C
flat.
flat, yeah.
Now, when we play D flat to C flat, the octave lower. Yeah, give me a couple of those, just the most. No danger. No danger. Give it to me nice and slow. Give it to me upstairs. No danger. Oh, you see what you did when you
Yeah.
wanted to go higher?
Put
All
my
of a sudden you
eyes
started chopping.
Yeah.
So here's what you need to do, and you got to fool yourself. You've got to bring that serenity of the lower. You've got to teach yourself to. It may take you a few tries, but go ahead, go for it. Now I don't know where and you could break it down a little further and just. And I like to if I can when I'm doing that, I like to be sure that I'm not interrupting the embouchure with a breath or anything. A space maybe, but so I'm going to do that now.
So keep it. All right.
Now these notes, we're up in a range right now where you probably need some work that's more
Right.
directly into, because what happens is your embouchure change from that note to that note is right now it's more than it will be eventually.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
so that's why we're having that problem. So we would need to develop some more progressive exercises for that.
Okay.
Okay.
And
But
yeah.
where I was going with that is that the top note of that slur is the high B flat. And so what I want you to do now is do what we did before. I want you to play that note, get it nice and secure, and then just back it down to the starting note. Okay, so now you just reminded yourself that when you play this note and take your breath and start that note, that the embouchure you're setting up is.
Left that I know. I'll leave out the other one.
Yeah, for that's for later.
Yeah. So those are good. Those are good pointers,
Yeah.
which I can't wait to. I'll send you a video after I've had a chance to play with those.
Okay. And you know what I would do if I were working on this piece, And this is a problem, and it is for a lot of us. Is I would continue to work on the piece and get it up to, I would continue working on the piece, but for that right now, for a while, I would be taking that down an octave.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
this way, you're getting it in your ear, and you're conditioning yourself to play it easy.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would be doing another part of my practice routine would be dedicated to getting the high notes
B flat,
secure.
yeah.
And then at some point in time, you'll just go back up there, and it'll be
This has
fine.
all been terrific. So let's pretend
Yeah.
that the entire trombone world is sitting in front of us, and
Yeah.
you have this opportunity to tell them one thing. Now, I've asked most of the teachers this question, and the answers have varied tremendously. Some of them
Yeah.
are directly trombone, some are
Yeah.
spiritual.
Uh-huh.
So I'll tell you after we go off tape what.
Well, I think it would be to whatever you're doing, try to make it as simple as possible, and whatever you're trying to play, try to get the sound concept in your ear as strong as you possibly can, and the ultimate goal is to have the sound concept completely dominating, in charge of what you're doing, because you are developing, or you have developed, or you have in progress a basic technique that's so strong and so reflexive that you don't have to think about that anymore. It's the same thing as when you're walking down the street towards the restaurant you want to go have dinner in. You're not thinking about left foot forward, now right foot forward, now left foot forward. You're just thinking about what you're going to want to be eating. That's kind of a crude example, but that's what I mean.
Right,
That's
yeah.
the ultimate goal. We never
Yeah.
totally get there, but we keep working for it.
Yeah.
And when we look at the great players, we know that's what's going on.
Cool.
And if you've got a high D that you have to play in a piece, as soon as you can possibly do it, erase the idea that that's a high D. Don't even think D anymore. What that note is that's what it is.
Yeah.
It's that sound. It's not a high D.
So don't think about the how to play it. Just
No.
think about playing it.
Brass players have too much baggage attached to high D or whatever.
Whatever the high
You know.
note is, yeah.
But this, and it's amazing, I have students that I say, okay, play this note. What is it? Never mind. Just play it. Okay, what is that? It's a D. Oh, I can't play a high D.
Right. And when you see it there, then you
Right.
go, holy mackerel, I can't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and
It's good advice and great lesson. Thank you so much
It was a
for
pleasure.
your time.
Yeah.
And I will be sending this to us at the end.